Hey everybody, it's Ramon Cruz here with a video for the day. Um, been trying to do a video just discussing today's issues, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time because every time I come to a certain point, I either start ranting or you know, I lose the essence of what I'm trying to say because it's so hard to define some of these terms and some of these things. Um, a quick note: if you disagree with what I have to say, I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for it. Um, I hope that you believe in freedom as much as I do, and will not just disagree with me, but defend my ability to disagree with you. Just like I'll defend your ability to disagree with me. If you disagree with me, disagree with me. That's fine. Um, but I feel like as Americans, we should be supporting our freedom to do so, unlike, unfortunately, the way the society is going. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Our society is heading in a direction that I'm really not liking. And the more and more I look at the news, the more and more I realize we're putting our head in the sand. The more and more I realize our society is becoming a I don't know if I want to call it like from the ground up fascism or from the ground up communism or socialism. I mean, there's so many different views in our society right now, and it's all blending together that it's hard to really get a good grasp, at least for me, to get a good grasp of how to define these terms. How do you define what's happening in our society? So, we have a society that, regardless of the political arena, I don't care who's in office, I don't care whatever's happening, um, we have a social and political arena that's just full of this talk of dictatorship almost. And it has nothing to do with who's in office right now. It has everything to do with the way that the society is using language and the kind of effects that it has. For example, we have the freedom to say whatever we want to say, the freedom of speech. But in society as a whole, they've taken this idea that if you disagree with me, you hate me. And so now we're using labels as a way of censorship. We're using labels as a way of saying I'm untouchable, and we're creating almost like a reverse caste system where people who have religious views are at the bottom of the caste. Um, those who have something in the business are those who have like a more of a warrior mentality or that have a sense of patriotism are just slightly above the religious caste. And then you have the people in market, people in business who are in the middle. And then you have the people who are, I guess, the commoners who are, indoctrinated in this idea, and they're like almost at the peak. And then you have the untouchables, the ones who are labeled as the people that need to be protected, the ones that are labeled as the people that need to be defended, the ones that you can't talk about them, you can't talk about their views, you can't talk about their situation. We've created a reverse caste system because before like in India, like I used to practice Hinduism, and the caste system is, as much as there are people that might deny it, the caste system um, is something that you have the untouchables. In their pyramid, you have the untouchables, you have the common people, you have the merchants, you have the warriors, and then you have the religious people, the priesthood. And I don't necessarily agree with that kind of separate. I believe that everyone is in the middle because I'm a Christian. But in I guess in our society, we've created like this reverse caste system where the religious people have no say. I mean, if you're religious, if you have a belief, unless you're a part of the group of the untouchables, and let's just be real, the people that are on the bottom group are the Christians. The Christians and the Jews are right there at the bottom. And when I mean Jews, I mean religious Jews, the ones that have certain religious views that contradict what the people at the top have to say. Then you have the people that are slightly above that, which are the patriots. Now the patriots have a little bit more say, but that's because they've sacrificed things for this country. But at the same time, they're considered slightly, they're considered at the lowest rank of society, because those who in our society who want this country to prosper, who don't hold on to that nonsense of victimization, those who say that if you're an American, you have the ability to do whatever it is that you want to do in terms of, your ability to move forward in life. Those are the ones that they're right there at the bottom. I mean, because in the caste system, you have the untouchables that basically aren't in the triangle. They're just kind of considered at the bottom. And then you have the patriots there, which, I mean, technically would be the warrior class in in the in the in the caste system. So then after that, you have the merchants, the business people. The business people have influence in terms of making the things that the top class want to happen. For example, if you don't like a person's view, like let's say I put this video on YouTube, which I probably will, um, your views are going to be, let's say I disagree with something and I put it on YouTube and YouTube doesn't like it. So YouTube can censor me. YouTube can delete my video and say that your views are not allowed. Now, there are a lot of views that are allowed. There are a lot of things that are allowed on YouTube. They're pretty free. I'm not going to accuse them of complete censorship. But they do have a political bend. They have social issues that they tend to lean towards. Just like the news, just like, there are companies that purposefully go forward to champion the views of the people at the top of the caste system, the reverse caste system. Then you have the then at the very top above that, you have the common people, which are the people that are indoctrinated into these views, that they're the common folk, which are indoctrinated into these views. They're told, to accept this, you have to have this belief. To accept your, or let me be a little bit more specific. Our society is indoctrinating the people that are the common people into this system of believing the victimhood, believing the idea of victimhood, believing in the idea of censorship of some ways. Like we have a class of people that through the school system, through the news, through the marketing, through the arts, you're creating a system of people that are slowly starting to believe things that don't make sense, slowly starting to believe things which are contrary to the way of life that they live. We have a way of life that is free, that you have the right to do whatever you want to do, and you have the right to say whatever you have to say as long as you're not inciting someone to violence. But our society is slowly starting to use the language of censorship. What do I mean by the language of censorship? Our society is using the language of, you can't say that because that's hateful. You can't say that because, and they're labeling views. There are people in the top class, and we're going to get to that. There are people in the top class, the untouchables, that label certain views as hateful, as negative, as bigoted, as this, and they could have nothing to do with what they're saying. The people at the top class could be completely wrong, but no one wants to be called a hater. No one wants to be called a bigot. No one wants to be called a homophobe. No one wants to be called an Islamophobe. So there are going to be those people. There are going to be those people that are going to say, I don't want to be called that, so I'm going to agree with you. And they're told for so many, they're told over and over and over again that those particular views are hateful, those particular views are damaging, and after a while, people just believe it. You could be told something like that. I mean, how many people have the time to get away from entertainment, to get away from the amount of work that they have to do throughout the day, to get away from these ideas, these things that that they're doing or being involved in, to actually check their facts and see what works and see what doesn't, and look at history, look at history to get those examples forward. And we really don't have, I feel like there's a large percentage of society that's not questioning their worldview. And they're just giving into the emotions. They're giving into the emotions. It's facts versus feelings, and I feel like they're giving into their feelings because they don't want to be called those things. They don't want to be labeled. Once you label a person as a hater, no one wants to listen to that person because they don't want to be associated with that kind of a view. And so that's what the untouchables have labeled certain views as, so as not to have to deal with the facts. They label them as hateful or bigoted or whatever, so that by the time the person tries to speak, no one wants to be sided with that person because they're considered as haters. You call a person a Nazi, no one wants to join Nazis. So, instead of, it's preemptive. It's this preemptive labeling of people groups in order to call them evil, just so that you don't have to deal with the facts. And then what happens is, in reality, the people who are calling other people fascists are the real ones that are using censorship. They're using social pressure to censor these other views. They're calling people bigoted and homophobic and Islamophobic and hateful and racist and all this other stuff. No one wants to be associated with that, so they automatically start removing that person from the conversation. And then on top of that, now we have the untouchables. Now, the untouchables are these group of people that are pushing their propaganda forward in order so that their way of life is never challenged, their social view is never challenged, and they keep all the power. Because in reality, that's what it is. It's about power. It's about saying who gets to talk and who doesn't. It's like backdoor fascism. Basically, you have these dictators of society. It's almost like it's not necessarily one dictator, but it's an ideology. It's an ideological viewpoint that pushes this narrative forward so that they don't lose power, so that they can do whatever they want and never be challenged. And in reality, it's damaging society to the utter extreme. And those who call, you just look at the news. If you see a bunch of people with masks on and they call themselves the Antifa, and you could be walking, and then all of a sudden you get surrounded by 5 or 6 different people who tell you that you have to agree with them or they're going to kick the crap out of you, basically. They consider you hateful. You'll feel intimidated. And that's the tactics that they're using. Intimidation and, this language of terrible language of hatred and labeling. It's almost like the Nazis when they labeled the Jews as their problem. Instead of the Jews as being the problem, in this case, it's white America, or not white America. Let me rephrase that, because it's not about white or black. It's about America as it should have been, or America as it once was. They're rebelling against the principles that used to make this country free. It's a rebellion, not against white America. They're just using the white people as an excuse. It's not a rebellion against anything white. It's a rebellion against just these principles of conservatism, these principles of society that makes us free, but also makes you responsible for yourself, that challenges your views. And so, that's where we're getting to as a society, where you have these Antifa that are coming out of nowhere, kicking the crap out of people because they have these views that they oppose. You have people that are using language I've in all my life, and I'm 28 years old. It may not be a long life, but I've seen a lot. We're using language as a tool for oppression. So basically, if you disagree with Islam, which I do, I was a practicing Muslim, and if you disagree with Islam, you're considered an Islamophobe. But your ideas are never challenged. You're called an Islamophobe, but they don't deal with your arguments. So this is where society is getting, where the second you associate yourself with a viewpoint, people want to shut you down. I guarantee you that if someone found my address and posted it online, I'd have a group of people here knocking on the door saying they want to kick the crap out of me. I'd have to take out a gun and say, hey, do you feel lucky today? That's basically how society is. And mind you, I feel like maybe that's what some people should do, is say, hey, you want to threaten me? I'm going to call the police and hope that they get there, and you better pray that they get there fast. Because that's the way that um, society is really heading. I feel like we're heading towards this, you know, and I'm not saying that anyone should be violent, but I'm saying that there is violence in our community. There is a threat of violence. There is an intimidation in the air, where people are using the society today as a weapon, the environment as a weapon, language as a weapon to censor people and intimidate people so that they don't speak anymore. And I'm tired of that. That's why I'm actually doing this video. Now, I'm going to do some videos on some actual specific topics, like the Antifa, like this whole issue on racism, which I feel is nonsense. And this is coming from a Hispanic man. This issue of America being unfair, or just all these issues that are coming up, and I really feel like it's nonsense. But we'll talk about that, and just stay tuned for my next video.